All right, guys, so this is a little bit of a hard video to do in general because it's all about using the calculator, and you're not sitting in front of me with your calculator, and I don't have a digital one to put on the screen. But there are some things I wanted to cover. A lot of this information you can get from your friends, but there are some things I thought we might as well hit because you're here. First real lesson of the year. Maybe you were absent, but you can at least refer to this a little bit. So first of all, the calculator that we're using this year, it is called the TI-30XS Multiview. Now, there are a lot of different TI-30s. There's a TI-36. There's a TI-30X2 Pro. There's a lot of different versions. Most of them have the same buttons. This is the one that we are using in the school. It's the one that you used in intermediate. A lot of your middle school math teachers probably had it as well. This is the one that you want to get your hands on if you can. These other calculators will have a lot of the same buttons, usually. But the one that we're going to be referring to is this one in particular. So a couple of things just to say I told you so. All right. First of all, the etiquette of a calculator. We have a lot of students at this school. We have about 400 students in each grade, and that's a lot of hands to go over these calculators. Please take care of the calculators. This is one of those things I feel like I shouldn't have to say it, but don't write on the screens of the calculator. It makes it hard to use them, right? Don't color in the solar panel on the calculator. It makes the calculator not charge anymore. And as teachers, we have to go out and spend our money to replace them. So take care of the calculators. If we start having problems with the calculators getting vandalized, we just take them out of the classroom. And if you were able to buy your own, great. If you weren't, tough luck. You've got to just find a way to deal without. So take care of them. They'll do good for you all year long, so be nice. Food. Again, I don't feel like I need to say this in high school, but I do. If you have Cheetos on your finger, please don't use the calculator. If you've been playing with your gum, please don't touch the calculator. And if you do, if you get it sticky, grab a sanitation wipe, clean it off, and we're good to go. All right? Okay, couple of things about these calculators. Again, I know this is hard when it's not in front of you, but a few things I want you to know. On the right-hand side, you've got a little scroll, kind of like a pad on a video game. You've got an up, down, left, and right. If you scroll up, it will take you up to see all the things that have been done on the calculator before you did whatever you just did. So there's a history that the calculator will keep. You can scroll up, and at any point, you can highlight anything in that history and hit enter. And it will move what you highlighted down to the very bottom and put it in your equation. So let's say a couple steps back, you found a really ugly decimal. You don't want to write it down. You don't have to retype it, but you do need to use it in a new number sentence. You can scroll up, hit enter. It'll bring it down to the bottom. If you start a new line, so if there's nothing on the calculator and the first thing you hit is plus, you're going to get this little thing in front of it that says ANS. That stands for answer. It is going to automatically pull whatever the last answer found on the calculator was and put it in front of the plus sign. This can be good or bad. Maybe you wanted that number and you want to add it to something else. You can just hit plus. But if you meant to put something else in front of the plus sign, it works the same way with divide. If you don't put a number down first, it's going to take the answer from the last calculation that was done and stick it in there for you. All right. Buttons that you need to know. This button here, it looks like an arrow pointing to the left and the right. It's right above the enter button. It's down at the bottom. We call that the best friend button. It does a lot of different things. It will take a decimal and it'll turn it into a fraction. So if you have 0.25 and you want to change that to a fraction, you hit the button and it will change that to 1/2. It also works the other way around. If you have a fraction, if you have 7/8 and you want to turn it to a decimal, you can hit that button and it'll tell you 0.875. It'll give you that information relatively quickly. It also, sometimes you'll do a calculation and it'll give you an answer that is not well, technically it is an exact answer, but for example, if I type in 7 pi plus 3 pi, we know that pi has a value, 3.14, blah, 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 blah. It goes on forever, right? Well, if I put in the calculator 7 pi plus 3 pi, it's going to give me 10 pi. But if I want an exact number, I don't want 10 pi. I want it to actually calculate 10 multiplied by pi. I can hit that best friend button and it will turn it into what? 314 point whatever it is, okay? So the best friend button will do a lot of things. There is a difference between these two buttons. They look very similar. The one on the left is up on the right-hand side by the divide, plus, and multiply sign. This is the minus button. The one on the right is down at the bottom next to the enter button. This is the negative sign. It looks like the minus sign, but it's in parentheses. If you want to subtract something, you need to be sure to hit the minus or the subtract button. If you want to put a negative in front of a number, you need to make sure that you hit this button. There are formulas that use both. We're going to use a formula this year. It's a popular one that has a plus, a minus, and negative signs in it. And you've got to be really careful that you use the minus where it's appropriate and the negative where it's appropriate. So know that those are not the same button. They are different buttons. Pretty print. These calculators have pretty print. So if I have an equation, I can type it into the calculator and make it look exactly like it looks on my paper. If I have something like this, let me get an actual pen here. If I have a fraction bar and on top I have 3 squared times parenthesis 7 to the negative 4 plus negative 2 times 8. And on top of that, I've got the 4th root of 6. I can't use x. My calculator won't do that. 6 cubed plus 0.004, right? These calculators have what's called pretty print. You can type it in a way that it'll make it look exactly like what's on your paper so that when you hit enter to get an answer, you can see exactly what it is calculating. So it's important that you use things like the parentheses. If you're typing something, if you're copying it off the paper, it's got parentheses, put them in the calculator, all right? If you see something like negative 4 squared, that is very different than negative 4 squared. If it has parentheses, put them in the calculator, it'll do it the right way. There's a button, it's a green button. I should have colored this one green. It's called the second button. All of the buttons on the calculator, well, most of them, back behind it, for example, let's pick one of these. There is a button that says, let's use the pi button. The pi button up above it in green, it says HYP. If I hit this second button first, and then I hit the pi button, it's not going to use pi, it's going to use HYP. It's going to use hypotenuse, all right, or hyperbola. I don't even know what the HYP is used for. We don't use it in this class, but no, that's what the second button does. There are instances in this class, quite a bit, where we will use that button. There is a button that says mode. When you hit the mode button, it gives you a couple of options. There's just a few of them that we need to be careful of. The first option, it gives you the choice between something called DEG, RAD, or GRAD. These are different modes that the calculator can be put in. In this class, we will always highlight DEG, degree mode. We don't use radian mode, but sometimes my calculus class will use these same calculators. And in their class, they never use degree mode. They always use radian mode. So if you're getting numbers that don't make sense, hit the mode button, jump on here, make sure that you have degree highlighted. It gives you some other options as well, the math print or the classic print. Normally the ones that you want selected are degree And then the next one down, you want norm to be highlighted. And then you want float to be highlighted. This changes how many decimals it gives you. If you just do float, it does it automatically. It doesn't do a set amount. And then you want math print highlighted. If anything else is highlighted, things don't work the way you always want them to work, or they don't look the way you always want them to look. Okay, there is a button, N over D. It looks like a fraction. It will put a fraction on the calculator. If you hit that button, you will get on your screen a fraction bar, and on top, you'll get a little box like this for you to put a number in, and on the bottom, you'll get a little box like this. You just put whatever numbers you want in those boxes, and now you just entered a fraction into the calculator. If you hit second and then that same button, you'll see it's a U with an N over D fraction. The N stands for numerator, D stands for denominator. This is if you have a mixed number. So if you had something like 3 1/4 that you wanted to put in the calculator, you would hit that button, and that one will put a big box in front of a fraction bar with 2 little boxes. And all you do is you put the numbers in the boxes so that it matches what you see on the paper. All right? There is a button just to the right of the fraction button that says N over D with these 2 arrows to U N over D. This will take a number and switch it between a mixed number and an improper fraction. So, and it will go back and forth. It doesn't matter which one you type in first. If I type in 3 1/4 and then I hit that button and then I hit enter, it is going to change that to 13/4 for me. If I put in 13/4 and hit that same button, it will change it to be 3 1/4. And then if I wanted to, I could hit the best friend button and it would change that to 3.25. So you can switch all of these things around. Then from there, you could even hit this button down here, this arrow to a percent. That will take a number and turn it into a percent. If I put this, or this one, and then I hit that change to a percent button, it will give me 325% on my calculator. So it's a nice way to convert things to percents if that's something you struggle with. You can also enter percents into the calculator. It's kind of cool. We have a formula, for example, the interest that you earn is the principal times the rate times time. So if I put $5,000 in the bank and the amount of time it's in the bank, let's say it's 4 years, when I put my rate in, my rate is a percent. Now, normally when I put a percent in a calculator, let's say my rate was 3%, I would have to change that to 0.03 before I put it in my calculator. But these calculators, you can actually type in 5,000 multiplied by 3, and then you can hit this percent button, and it'll change it to 3%, which is the same thing as 0.03, and then you can just times by 4 and get the interest. It's kind of a cool feature on these calculators. All right, couple of things I want you to do on the homework. I changed the instructions a little bit. So the first page of the homework, numbers 1 through 8, it wants you to write 2 fractions that are equivalent to the fraction it gave you. I don't want you to do that. I want you to take the fraction it gives you, and I want you to change it to a decimal. Practice that on the calculator. Numbers 9 through 20, do everything the same. The second box, it wants you to switch back and forth between mixed numbers and prime numbers. I love that. Go ahead and do it. On the other side, number 1, the top box says to evaluate, and it gives you a bunch of arithmetic to do on the calculator. When you evaluate, when you plug in 1/14 plus 5/14, the calculator is going to spit back 6/14. I don't want you to leave it as a fraction. I then want you to convert your answer to a decimal. So if you got the fraction 6/14, that's probably not going to be a very nice one. I want you to convert that, and it's going to become a really ugly decimal, 0.42857, blah, 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 blah. Let's go ahead and say that I want you to round, I want 2 decimals. after the decimal point. So some of these, if they come out to be not nice numbers, just go ahead and go 2 decimal places for me. So this would be 0.43 as a decimal. Go ahead and round it if you don't want to write the big long one. The second set of questions, 1 through 4, do what it says, write the reciprocal. If you don't remember what a reciprocal is, that's when you flip it over. So I don't want to use these ones. I want you to do your own. So if I had 5/8 to write the reciprocal, that would just be 8 over 5. If I had -4, the reciprocal would be -1 over 4. You just take the fraction, flip it over. -4 is a fraction. It's -4 over 1. But on numbers 5 through 20, it wants you to multiply and divide fractions. Go ahead and do that on your calculator. But when you are done, it's going to give you a fraction. This one, number 5, is going to spit back 3 over 24. Actually, it's not, because it's probably going to simplify it to be 1/8. I want you to take that fraction and I want you to write your answer as a percent. So I want you to then hit the change it to a percent button. So that 1/8 would not be 1/8. You would end up with what? 0.125%. Or I guess it's 0.125. So we want, where are we? 12.5%. Sorry, got my decimal in the wrong place. I'm converting and decimaling it at the same time. So make sure you write those as percents, please. All of your answers should have a percent after them. What else do I want you to change? Nothing. The last box, go ahead, do it the way it is. When you're done, please show me your work, submit this on Canvas, and I'll get it put into the gradebook for you.